Once again, I'm asking you, what if Regigigas was in Gen 1 Ubers? A year ago, I went over how good Regigigas would be, and it was one of the best Pokemon I ever covered. But there was one very crucial thing that I missed with that video, and that was the fact that he knew Strength. I know that sounds like a weird thing to not pay attention to, but the way I do these videos is by using the Pokemon with their earliest moveset. So for Regigigas, that would be using its moveset from Generation 4. In Generation 4, Regigigas could not learn Body Slam or Double Edge, only Hyper Beam as a stab normal move that is in Gen 1. For the purposes of that video, I figured while Regigigas would obviously be way too much for OU, the thing that would kinda balance it out would be the fact that its only real stab move would be a very powerful one, but not something you could spam since it doesn't do 100% of damage. But the commenters were to point out that, technically, Regigigas knew Strength, and Strength is in fact in Gen 1, and with only 80 base power, it's not really that different from Body Slam. And what do you know? It has Thunder Wave, so it doesn't care about Body Slam's paralysis chance anyways. So that's why we're doing this remake. Not to mention, I've already done Regirock, Regice, Registeel, Regidrago, Regilucky. So with this remake, I'm finally completed all of the Regis, seeing how they would do in Gen 1 OU. By the way, last night I did a video on Registeel, and a lot of you guys seem to really disagree with my conclusions to that video. So be sure to check out yourself and let me know what you think. But for Regigigas, oh boy, where do I start? Oh, these are just insane stats that you can actually use, because in Gen 1, there are no abilities. Granted, there's no abilities in Legends Arceus either, but they were pretty cruel to Regigigas there. But you're about to see just how strong Regigigas really is when it can't use an ability. So I'm telling you right now, I still think the nerf is dumb, because as a big-time Ubers Pokemon, why would you even care if it's too strong to use? But that's just regardless of the point. In Gen 1 is where it would shine the brightest. Even if throughout every single generation, it always had a different ability. And that's because in Gen 1, the best typing is Normal type. And oh boy, does Regigigas really enjoy that Normal stab. It has 160 attack, which is just absolutely insane. That's even higher than Mewtwo's special. And Hyper Beam is significantly more powerful than Psychic, I'll tell you that. But along with that, you have 100 in defenses and in HP, so you're just incredibly tanky. Being a normal type means that Body Slam cannot paralyze you, and even 80 special attack isn't bad. In fact, Regigigas could make use of that. Because in the original video, one of my big selling points is, even though Regigigas doesn't have a normal move, other than Hyper Beam, it does have good coverage. And look here, Thunderbolt and Ice Punch is just really good. Granted, Ice Punch is very weak, but who are you using Ice Punch on anyways? You'd use Ice Punch and just Rhydon exactly. And Rhydon doesn't really want to stay in. And luckily, you don't even need Ice Punch, because Earthquake is just more than enough on its own. So the only move here you might use, not really Fire Punch or Rock Slide, might be Thunderbolt exactly for Cloyster. And if that's the case, Cloyster will in fact take a lot of damage from Thunderbolt. But I don't think it's really needed, if I'm being honest with you. Even though Cloyster has a lot of defense, Regigigas, especially with Thunder Wave, can probably beat Cloyster 1v1. But still, the option is always nice. Now, Strength and Hyper Beam are probably what you're using on 90% of the tier. But Earthquake is there for your pesky Gengar and Rhydon. And yeah, that's just perfect coverage. What else do you really need? You even have Thunder Wave, so you can either be in control of speed, be faster than something like Tauros or Gengar, or you can just use it just to help even out against other Pokemon, such as, like, let's say Starmie with Thunder Wave as well, or you can use it against Mewtwo. Mewtwo doesn't really run any paralysis moves, so if you paralyze Mewtwo, Regigigas becomes stronger than it, A Mewtwo in Gen 1 Ubers is already terrified of a full HP Snorlax. So Regigigas here is just... it's just even more insane. Is there anything else I really need to say at this point? Or actually, wait, yes, there is actually. Along with just an incredible attacking stat, a pretty good special attack stat, and the best defensive stats I've ever seen, it has base 100 speed. Its speed ties with Zapdos, who is already a fast Pokemon, and you're telling me it has a 19% chance to crit? Why does this thing need to have a good crit rate when it hits so gosh darn hard? It's just the perfect Pokemon. And I want to believe that they nerfed its stats, gave it slow start, just because they knew how powerful it would be. But obviously, they didn't have Regigigas in mind when they were making the original 151. So it's just funny to me. I guess the only real question is, would Regigigas be more broken than Slaking? Because if you didn't see my Slaking video, Slaking, I'm gonna say, is better. Because of Slash. Mostly because of Slash, really. Granted, Slaking does have also Amnesia, but I don't think Amnesia is the best thing on it with only 65 special attack. And while I didn't make it for the video, Slaking probably should have Slack Off as a signature. So just Slash, Earthquake, I guess Blizzard, or whatever you want as a coverage move, and then Slack Off. Yeah, I just think it's gonna be really hard for anything to be stronger than Gen 1 Slaking. Other than, I guess, Eternamax, but does that even count? I'm not sure. Let's just get on to the replay, shall we? This is gonna be very different from last time, since Regigigas has a real moving spam. Starting off with the king of Ubers, or is he really, with Regigigas around? Paralysis is already just really good here, and Strength does a decent amount of damage, but Hyper Beam does not kill with the Strength in Hyper Beam, which, I don't know, I was kind of surprised by that. But to be honest, it doesn't change too much either way, because it's Mewtwo, it's still a big threat, definitely could go either way. I don't think anyone's too surprised by that. But what about against Mew? Now, Mew hates Paralysis even more than Mewtwo does. Regigigas itself, I would imagine, doesn't care all that much about it. And because of how insane your stats are, a single Sword Stance and Earthquake isn't enough to super threaten you. At the same time, just like with Mewtwo, Strength in the Hyper Beam doesn't immediately KO, although I'm willing to bet that's a damage range. But thanks to my Generation Jumble Council member Sotina, she was the one that pointed out to me that Reflected Mew is a real thing that exists in Ubers, which definitely makes sense now that I think about it. Obviously, with Mew, with Reflect, it does significantly better, but even here, Regigigas still has a really good crit rate, and Paralysis is still really annoying, so it doesn't just automatically lose. Regigigas can still fight back, and Mew can fight back too, but needing to set up Sword Stance is a really big issue. And even with max attack, Earthquake is only a 2-hit KO, and I'm not even sure Body Slam is a 2-hit KO. It might be. By the way, speaking of Sotina and council members, if you don't know what that is, join my Discord server. I host tournaments based off the what if videos that I make, and very soon, I'll be having a format for Gen 1 Ubers with the Weather Trio, the Hoenn Starters, the Regi Trio, and Metagross. It'll be a lot of fun, and I'd hope to see you there. Alright, let's get on to the regular OU Pokemon. With seeing how Mew and Mewtwo did, yeah, I don't have much hope for these guys. That's Tauros Body Slam, and it's doing absolutely nothing to Regigigas. Strength already hits pretty hard on its own, but then Hyper Beam just completely deletes Tauros. So I guess this means Tauros needs to run Fire Blast, and I'm gonna say probably not. But that's because not only is Fire Blast in of itself not guaranteed to work, not only is a crit not gonna care about that attack drop, but most importantly, keep in mind this is still an Ubers format. It's more than just Regigigas you need to worry about. Mew and Mewtwo are also big threats. So Fire Blast is just kind of bad. Like, do you want Chansey or Mewtwo getting burned in Gen 1 Ubers? Absolutely not. And also, for most Pokemon, when I do these videos, I try to remind you guys that Hey guys, by the way, remember these are just 1v1s. Most Pokemon hate 1v1s and things are very different in a 6v6 environment. Regigigas, as you can see, is already dominating a lot, and it's hilarious. But despite how good it's looking right here, it will be even better when you're in a 6v6 environment. Because Regigigas technically can be used at any point of the game, and it will do great. But oh my gosh, Regigigas as a late game cleaner when most of your opponent's team is weakened or paralyzed. I don't even want to think about that. That's just, it's crazy. And look here, this is Reflectilax, and Reflectilax is currently losing to a Regigigas that doesn't even have any healing moves. How does that happen? Yeah, this guy is just insane. But I'm sure that's why you're all here in the first place. Regigigas, before I made the video on it, used to be one of my most requested videos of all time. Slaking was as well. And it's no surprise. Other Pokemon with bad abilities, I've gone over Archeops as well, but that video is pretty old, so I might make a remake of it. And unfortunately, it's just not as good as Slaking and Regigigas. Both because it's not a normal type, its stats aren't as crazy as the other two, but also just being a flying type means it's weak to both Blizzard and Thunderbolt. So even though a rock flying typing is really good for Gen 1 in some ways, it also kind of sucks. Which just makes Regigigas here, being a pure normal type, all the better. Because there's not really any fighting moves, and if there was, well, they would probably get demolished, like you saw there. Like, what are you going to use against it? Low kick? Submission? Of course not. And this Chansey was trying to use Counter. And I'm not even sure if Counter is even good on Chansey. Because on one hand, if they go for Strength instead of Hyper Beam, yeah, that could delete Chansey. Or, one of them's getting deleted. Either Chansey's getting crit, or Counter will kill Regigigas. But to be honest, considering Counter only works with normal and fighting moves, that means Regigigas can probably just... It can either go for Hyper Beam immediately, forcing Chansey to switch out, and to be honest, that's kind of what you have to bank on. Reflect here could be good, but even with Reflect, they're still, like, going to be taking a lot of damage. But I just don't think Chansey can really risk taking a Hyper Beam. So Thunder Wave and Reflect, like, it can make progress on Regigigas, sure, but why would you risk it? You would have to... And what do you even switch into? Because it's not like any other Pokemon. If you were to use Hyper Beam and they switch into Rhydon, Boros can get seriously punished. Or they can switch into Gengar, which you can maybe do something. But not here. You switch Gengar into Regigigas, it will just go immediately for Earthquake next turn. I suppose Rhydon could get a free Earthquake in, but then Regigigas can tank it and it's free to go for its own Earthquakes. And Regigigas will probably beat the Rhydon exchange, even if it, like, lost a turn to needing to recharge. So Chansey's doing alright right here, but I'm pretty sure I put it as a good matchup, but I'm wondering if you can argue Chansey being a great matchup. I suppose not, since that's probably being a little bit too generous, but it really does not matter in at all, since you're just not wanting to deal with Chansey. Or no, Chansey is going to deal with Regigigas, that's what I meant to say. The only real things that can reliably take on Regigigas is just another Regigigas. So for the purposes of Ubers, yeah, it's not looking too healthy right now. Now, normally I wouldn't bother with a Cloyster replay in Gen 1 Ubers, but I figured since Cloyster has high defense, it's worth going over. And Strength, not even Body Slam, already does pretty good damage to Cloyster, while Blizzard's only a 4-hit KO. So Regigigas can probably just take on Cloyster. Because of Explosion, I'll put the matchup and could go either way, and even that might not even be completely true. And I might change it to good matchups once getting forward. Or maybe I'll keep it in could go either way. Because at least compared to, like, a Pokemon like Exeggutor here, which can always be deleted with 2 moves, Cloyster could have it way worse. Alright, let's keep moving on. Here's Gengar. The best thing Gengar can use is Nightshade, I guess. But it just gets demolished by Earthquake. Honestly, like, the most interesting replays were the ones with Mewtwo and Mew, and I guess Cloyster. Most of this video is now just going to be things being destroyed, as you can realistically imagine would happen. I guess Jolteon surviving Earthquake is pretty impressive, but that's just how it works. You have max experience and max TVs. Oh yeah, by the way, Regigigas, along with just having insane base stats, it also has max and everything. Max HP, max EVs and attack, special attack speed, etc. All the more reason why Regigigas is absolutely insane. Alright. We have Jinx, and you guys already know how this is gonna go. Obviously, Regigigas would be a good sweep target, but also, it's so easy to use a sweep sack. To where, in other words, like, I feel like putting Regigigas out on the field, if you're the Jinx player, you kind of have to go for it. But if you go for it, they're just probably switching to something else. So now that I think about it, I guess Regigigas actually wants paralysis. Been a while since I've talked about that. And yeah, here's Rhydon. Not doing that much damage to Regigigas. So, like I said, even if, or actually, so let's say Rhydon switches into Hyper Beam. Even though it's resisted, it probably would do decent damage. And that Hyper Beam would just mean that Regigigas can just 2-hit KO with Earthquake. Or maybe even kill Rhydon with a crit Earthquake. Yeah, no, this is... oh boy. Here's Slowbro. The best thing Slowbro can do is annoy with paralysis, I guess. But outside of that, your high defense isn't really doing much here. You can't afford to set up Amnesias on Regigigas. And while I suppose if Slowbro does have max special, it does a lot better. But even at that point, I'm willing to bet on max special Surf does not KO Regigigas. Meaning Regigigas can probably go for 2 attacks of Strength and Hyper Beam if it wants to. And even if it doesn't kill, that definitely means Slowbro can get revenge killed. So, what do you do here, really? I can't really think of... yeah, no, this is just... regardless of the circumstance, it's probably just Slowbro just waiting to get crit. If Regigigas needs to crit in the first place. And next up we have Starmie. Now I think for the replay you're going to see above you right now, I think this is the replay where Starmie is actually getting really lucky. But Strength, yeah, that's a crit Strength, and that did so much damage. And for this replay, Regigigas kept on missing Hyper Beams as well as just having full paralysis chance. So Starmie here, trying to fight for its life, trying to go for recovers, does better than usual. But I'm gonna say that Starmie just, it's just not winning in exchange to Regigigas. Already, Starmie facing a full HP Snorlax is not good and should never be recommended. Since Snorlax will keep going for Body Slam, it will eventually paralyze Starmie, and then Starmie is not going to be able to recover enough to stall out those Body Slams. So then, that just gets killed. And Regigigas here not only has guaranteed paralysis, but hits way harder. So, Starmie just can't do anything. And last, and maybe least, we have Zapdos. Now, as I learned from this replay, Regigigas doesn't even need to go for Thunder Wave here. And Zapdos probably doesn't bother going for it either. Just a simple Strength and the Hyper Beam is more than enough to take out Zapdos. Yeah, that's certainly something. Well, here's the the tier list. Can I change some things? Maybe. Like, Chansey can flip-flop between any of the tiers. Rhydon, you can maybe argue could go either way, I guess. But for the most part, nothing wants to face Regigigas, except for another Regigigas. Regigigas would be so strong in Ubers. Now, would it be better than Mewtwo? I'm gonna say no. Mewtwo is just more versatile, I think. At least it comes to, like, its actual game plan. Not to mention, just having Recover is so insanely useful. Not to mention, if Mewtwo does get set up, Regigigas will not be able to take it out without a critical Hyper Beam, which is not something you can consistently rely on. So there we go. Regigigas was already way too much for Ubers last time, and that's just even more of the case here. What do you think? Do you think Regigigas would be too much for Ubers? Or do you think it would just be the second best Pokemon and be able to stay in the tier? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to join the Discord server if you want to be able to participate in tournaments where you get to play in Gen 1 Ubers but with some new Pokemon. Also be sure to check out my Twitter or my Patreon if you're interested in that as well. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.